In this video, I'll be teaching you how to make dishwashing liquid soap. Now here is one thing most people do not know. There is difference between dishwashing liquid soap and multi-purpose liquid soap, and most of the videos you see online is mostly about how to make multi-purpose liquid soap. So in this video, I'll be teaching you how to make dishwashing liquid soap. We start by measuring out our ingredients, and for this, we'll be making 10 liters of dishwashing liquid soap. And the first ingredient I have here is caustic soda. So I'll be using 30 grams of caustic soda to make 10 liters of dishwashing liquid soap. So just go on and measure out all the ingredients and set it aside before moving on to the next step. So for the caustic soda, we need 30 grams. So after measuring out the 30 grams of your caustic soda, go on and measure the next ingredient. And for the next ingredient, I have Texapon. And for the Texapon, I'll be using 600 grams of Texapon. Now this is why it's important to have your own scale, because when you have your own scale, you'll be very mindful of the measurement. So please try and get your scale. So measure out the Texapon, and for the next ingredient, you need SLS rice. And for the SLS rice, I'll be using 250 grams of SLS rice, which is sodium lauryl sulfate. And after that, for the next ingredient, you need sodium sulfate, and I'll also be using 250 grams of sodium sulfate. And after measuring out the sodium sulfate, here are all the ingredients we need to make this dishwashing liquid soap. So over there I have sulfonic acid, and I'll be using 200 ml of sulfonic acid. And here I have glycerin. I also have soap booster, which is cocomide. You can also use cocobetane. And here I have the SLS, I have thickener, I have perfume, and I also have preservative. But I will not be using thickener for this soap. And I also have color. After measuring out all the ingredients, now it's time to prepare the soap solution. The first solution I'll be preparing here is to dissolve the SLS rice with water, which is going to be one of the solution. Now to dissolve the SLS rice, I'll be using 6 liters of water. Now the reason I'm using 6 liters of water to dissolve the SLS rice, like I said earlier, I will not be using thickener for this soap. So if you're using thickener, I would advise you, since we are making 10 liters of liquid soap, measure out 8 liters. You can use 4 liters to dissolve your SLS rice, and then you use the remaining 4 to dissolve your thickener. Please listen to that again to understand it better. So because I'll not be using thickener, I measured out 6 liters of water, and I'll be dissolving my SLS rice with its 6 liters of water. And now moving on, after adding the SLS rice, just go on and stir it gently for like a minute or two. And then you can just set it aside and allow it to dissolve properly before using it for production. It's very important that you allow it to dissolve completely before using it. And then for the second solution, I'll be making the lye solution. And to make the lye solution, I'll be using 1000 ml of water to dissolve the 30 grams of caustic soda. And the 1000 ml of water is 1 liter. Please make sure you get the measuring cup. Now please always remember this. The proper way to make your lye solution is to always pour the caustic soda into the water. Please do not pour water into the caustic soda. Always remember to pour your caustic soda into the water, and that is the right and proper way to make your lye solution. And immediately you pour the caustic soda and stir it, there will be a chemical reaction that will force the water to heat up. And as you can see, it's looking cloudy. We need to allow it to cool completely, and we also need to allow the water to be very clear in color before using it for production. So just keep it somewhere safe, and then you can move on to the next step. Please always keep your lye solution in a safe place. This is very corrosive, and once it touches your skin, it might cause irritation. So always keep it in a safe place before going to the next. And after that, for the next ingredient, I'll be dissolving my sulfonic acid. Now what I did here is to measure out 100 grams of Texapon out of the 600 grams we measured out earlier. Remember, we measured out 600 grams of Texapon earlier, and out of the 600 grams, I'll be taking 100 grams out of it to dissolve my sulfonic acid, and this is how I do it. Sorry guys, due to time I will not be able to show the whole process on how to dissolve your sulfonic acid. If you want to learn how to make this, check my previous video on how to make foam booster. Over there I have the full details on how to dissolve your sulfonic acid with Texapon to get this result. And now moving on, after dissolving this is the end result, and now it's time to move on to the next step. Now all you have to do is to get your mixing bowl, and you also need your wooden spatula. So just go ahead and get these two items and then start by adding your Texapon. Now this is the Texapon we measured out earlier. Remember, I measured out 600 grams of Texapon, and out of the 600 grams I use 100 grams to dissolve sulfonic acid. So I have 500 grams left, and that is what I'll be using for this production. So all I'm just doing here is to transfer the Texapon into my mixing bowl. So at this point, just transfer the Texapon into your mixing bowl, and after that get the next ingredient, which is sodium sulfate. So you're going to combine the sodium sulfate and the Texapon, mix it until you get a fluffy texture. Then you can start adding the next ingredient. And now the major purpose of combining these two ingredients together is to dissolve the Texapon with sodium sulfate. The sodium sulfate will help to dissolve the Texapon easily, and also mixing it together will help to get a more transparent color from your soap. So when you combine it and mix it well and you get a fluffy texture or consistency, you can proceed to add your SLS solution. So this is the SLS solution we made earlier with just water and SLS. So all you have to do is to add the SLS water or solution bit by bit. Please do not add too much of it at once. Just add it bit by bit until you add all the water. So just follow exactly what you're seeing in this video. Now what happens when you pour all the SLS water at once? It will affect the consistency, and also adding it bit by bit will help to dissolve the sodium sulfate. Being that sodium sulfate is like salt, not like it's like salt, it's salt. So to dissolve it properly, adding the water bit by bit will help to properly dissolve the sodium sulfate, and also helps you to achieve a more transparent color. So when you add it bit by bit, you will notice the consistency, and also you will notice the color. So just go on, continue to add it bit by bit until you add all the SLS solution. And now one more thing you should know about how to stir when making your liquid soap. Please do not stir with force. Do it gently. When you do it gently, you'll be able to control the excess bubble. But when you do it with force, you're going to create excess bubble in the soap. And when your soap have too much bubble in it, it will take time to settle. And not just that, you will not be able to see the outcome of your soap before the soap sets. And if you're not able to see the outcome of the soap, you might make mistake, or you might not be able to see clearly what you're doing. So just make sure you stir gently until you're able to add all the ingredients. So that's it. You're going to add the water bit by bit until you add all the SLS water. Now if you notice earlier, I used just 6 liters of water to dissolve the SLS rice, and I still have 2 liters left. So I'm just watching the consistency, being that I'm not using any thickener for this. Now after adding all the SLS solution, I will go on and add the sulfonic acid that we dissolved earlier. So if you have your sulfonic acid at this point, just go on and add it. And when you add it, you can go on and mix it well. So always remember this. You can always replay the video to understand everything. So the video will always be here for you to see. You can always come back to rewatch it to understand. So after adding the dissolved sulfonic acid, you stir it. Now, as you can see, after adding the dissolved sulfonic acid, you can see the color and also you can see the consistency. So that is the major reason I used that method to dissolve my sulfonic acid. The major reason is because of how well it lathers, so I love it. Now, after adding the sulfonic acid, here is a light solution we made earlier. You can see the color, you can see that the caustic soda was properly dissolved, and you can also see the translucent color. So just go on and pour the caustic soda and stir it. As you're adding, you're stirring it. Now after that, go on and mix it well. Now just pay attention to the color of this soap and also the consistency. And after adding the light solution, go on and stir it well, but always remember to stir gently. And then I'll go on and add the foam booster. For the foam booster I'm using here, I used Cocomide. So you can either use Cocomide or Cocobetene. Those are very good quality foam booster. So I'll be using just 60 ml of Cocamide. Now I like this foam booster because it boosts the foaming effect of your soap, and also it helps to thicken the soap. Now let me remind you, earlier on I used 6 liters of water to dissolve SLS rice, and I used 1 liter to dissolve caustic soda and 1 liter to dissolve sulfonic acid. So I used 8 liters in total. So all I'm just trying to say here is that the total amount of water I use here is 8 liters of water. Now being that I'm not using any thickener, so I tried not to add the remaining 2 liters of water. So in total what I made is 8 liters of liquid soap. So if you're not using any thickener and you want to use this process, please just use 8 liters of water. Now here are 2 important factors you should focus on when making dishwashing liquid soap. Number 1 is the consistency, which is the thickness, and number 2 is the transparent color. But before I proceed, the next ingredient I have here is glycerin, and I'll be using 60 ml of glycerin. Now back to the 2 important things you should focus on when making your dishwashing liquid soap. So like I said earlier, number 1 is the thickness and number 2 is the transparent color. So and then go on and add your fragrance. You can use any good fragrance of your choice. So when you add the fragrance, mix it well. Now most of you guys always complain about after adding the fragrance your soap turn watery. Now this is how to dissolve your fragrance before adding it to your soap. So use a separate bowl or cup to fetch a little bit of the soap, and then you add the fragrance into the cup, and after mixing it well, just pour it inside the soap, which is the major product, and then you stir it to combine it. Do not pour it directly, especially if you're using fragrance like lemon. Lemon fragrance is very powerful, so it can actually reduce the consistency of your soap. So when using lemon fragrance, avoid adding it directly into the soap. Get a little amount of the soap and mix it with the fragrance before adding it into your soap. And here for the next ingredient, I have the preservative. Now one of the major reasons your soap may turn watery after production is the water. If you use hard water to produce your soap, it might affect the consistency of your soap after production. Majority of companies use RO water to make their dishwashing liquid soap, which is reverse osmosis water. So that is the reason after production they get exactly what they want. So it's nothing like you're not doing it right, it's just about the ingredients. So please, even if you're not using RO water to make your product, always make sure that you use quality ingredients to make your soap. And if you can also use distilled water, but if you're making this for sale, spending money to buy distilled water will be too much for you. So the only way to do this is to make sure that you use quality ingredients, or if you have the money, you can just buy the RO water filter, or you can just use your phone to search on Google. Just search RO water filter and you're going to see different types of it. Now I know you're wondering why I did not add color to this soap. How I like making this dishwashing liquid soap, after production, I like to allow the soap to settle. I like all the bubbles to settle down before adding the color. You can also add the color immediately after production, but I just like adding the color after the soap has settled. So all you have to do is to cover it and allow it to settle completely if you don't want to add the color. So I'll cover it and leave it for like 20 to 24 hours to settle before adding the color. And after 4 hours, this is what we have. Now this is the reason I said you should always stir gently, because when you stir gently, there will be less bubble and your soap will be able to settle fast. So this is what we have, and I'm gonna divide it into 3 sections because I'll be making 3 colors with it. And this is also how you make your product, and that is why I prefer to allow it settle before adding color, because I usually divide and add different colors. So if you allow your soap to settle, you'll be able to add different colors and you don't need to make different products for it. Or even after making your product, you can also divide into any section you want and add different colors if you want to. Now take a look at the consistency, even though we did not add any thickener to this soap. So you can see the consistency, and this is the work of the sulfonic acid and cocamide that I used earlier. And I will still add a little bit more of the cocamide to thicken it a little bit more. So now moving on, I divided it into 2 sections, and I'll be using green for one, and this is my green color. And you can always prepare your colors and keep ready, and anytime you need it you can just go for it. So this is my green color, and I'll be using just a little bit of the color. Please avoid adding too much color to this. And now please, I will not be giving you any color measurement for this. Just add the color until you're satisfied with the color, but please do not add excess of the color. So just do something very unique, because when you use too much color, it's going to look off the market. Just use something light and unique, but be very creative and original in your own way. So after adding the green color, so for this particular one, I'll be doing yellow. Now pay attention to all these colors. These colors have different shades in the market. You might get pure yellow sometimes, and sometimes you get something close to orange. So always pay attention to the colors. And another thing is that they also have original color and fake color. Now when you do fake color, in most cases you'll find out that the color settles under the bow, but if you use original color, it doesn't settle. Everything mixes evenly and remains exactly the way it is. And in majority of times when you use fake color, the color will automatically divide from the liquid soap and you're going to see it. So always pay attention to the color. Now here is another color that I always make for my product. I make this shade from the yellow color. So what I do after making my yellow color, I divide it into 2, and then I add a little drop of green color to get the shade that I call my lemon color. So you can see how it's looking. So I'll just show you how I do this. So this is something you can always do. You can make your own color if you want, but for now, for a start, let me not confuse you. You can just do with the regular and popular colors. But if you just want to do something original or something unique, you can just create your own color with any color of your choice. So I created this color for my product and it sells really good as well. So this is the 3 colors I have in the market, and these 3 colors they sell very well. And if you come to Nigeria, I think this is the 3 major colors in the market. Now please take note, what I just taught you now is about how to make basic dishwashing liquid soap. If you really want to learn how to make quality dishwashing liquid soap, when I say quality, I mean company standard, come and register for my online class, because in my online class you're going to learn everything you need to know about how to make quality dishwashing liquid soap, multi-purpose liquid soap, hand wash, toilet cleaner, car shampoo, hair shampoo, and the rest. Now when I said quality, this is what I mean. Take a look at the quality of this product. Can you see the transparent color, the glossy effect, or should we talk about the thickness? Take a look at the consistency. It's giving quality, and this is what you're going to learn in my class for just 5,500. Come and register for my online class and you're going to love it. So friends, that's the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Do not forget to like, share, and comment. Bye. Share and comment. Bye.